just wanted to thank you very much for taking a few minutes of your time to talk with National Rock Review.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves.
Yes.
For the camera and for all the fans, who do I have in front of me right now?
I love that it's done this way with the camera, because I kind of feel like I've been abducted. I'm like, I am fine. They haven't hurt me. This is Bret, who is Blue Stahli. Blue Stahli is a one-man project. Everything you hear on my records is me, which means it takes me a lot longer to do everything, but it also means that I don't have anyone to blame for when things go horribly awry, which they typically do. So yeah, I'm the sole member of Blue Stahli.
So the rumors are that sometime later this year you have a new album coming out. Can you tell me about the album? What's the name of the album? Is it a concept, or is it just a bunch of good songs thrown together for the consumption of all the fans out there?
I wish that I had the attention span necessary to put together a full concept album with like a big spanning storyline and everything. That's more Clayton of Cell Dweller. That's his thing, is building an entire universe and everything. Mine is more like a like short controlled bursts of things. So rather than that's also like the differences between our projects, is he does like the big like epic spiraling songs, and mine are like more like pop arrangement. You know, like his are 8 minutes long, mine are like 3.5 minutes long. I like the short controlled bursts of rapid fire. That's the stuff that I really like. That's what I go for. And the musical concept for this thing has changed over the course of doing this. At first it was just going to be, these are just going to be like lo-fi, raw, just big guitar stuff, and as it went on, I got really interested in mixing so many different styles of production, thinking, well, what if I were to tone down the what if I were to pull back on the screaming a little bit, but make the guitars louder and darker progressions, but then completely throw it for a curveball and throw in like really catchy pop harmonies and pop production, and then throw it for another curve again and mix in like glitchy French electro style production. The album is called The Devil, and that concept came about from I was looking through a family photo album. It was after my grandfather passed away. Looking through this family photo album, and I see this picture of me as a kid. I'm like 2 or 2.5 years old, and I'm in this devil outfit that my mom made for Halloween, and that's what's been used as the cover for The Devil Chapter 1 and The Devil Chapter 2. You can see this exact thing, and it's even a T-shirt on the on the label store. You can get a Bret as a Devil Baby T-shirt. And as soon as I saw that picture, I wasn't even thinking about the new album. I just had a collection of songs and demos I was working on. I didn't have any sort of concept or anything to unify them together. But seeing that picture, I started laughing immediately and went, "This is ridiculous. This is an album cover." And what else can you call it than just The Devil? And how hilarious it was to me, because I just like entertaining myself. How entertaining it was to me to see, like, I can't believe, you know, like, I have the sort of family where, yeah, let's dress him up like Satan. That's hilarious. And so we even wound up taking this artist Veracity, who's doing who's been doing a lot of the graphics for it. He took the little pitchfork that was sewn onto that outfit, traced it out, and now that's been the branding for the album as well.
Is it an EP? Will it be an LP? How many songs can your fans expect to hear when the album actually does come out?
I wish that I had kept count. I think it's more than 10, so it may be 11 or 12, but I also could be opening my mouth just to change feet, and maybe it is 10. I always try and shoot for like at least 10. Is like that's for me. That's an album. That's like a controlled. Okay, here is the thing. I think that's what I did for the debut as well, for the self-titled. So it's at least 10, but probably 12. and if I wind up throwing more and more material on there, it will be a full length LP. But the way that I release stuff and the way that we do things through Fixed is, instead of the old model of like, okay, you're not going to hear from me for a year while I'm working on this album, or 2 years, or however long it takes me to do this damn thing. You're not going to hear any of that. I'll just tell people I'm working on stuff, and then all of a sudden, oh, here comes this giant work. Instead of doing that, since we're now in the digital age and the age of social media, what's more interesting to me, and hell, I would like this if other bands did this as well, give you something to follow along with, I release 2 songs at a time in the form of chapters. A chapter is just that's a fancy way of saying EP. That's like the Fixed way of saying an EP. So I release these chapters, these EPs, that have 2 songs, as well as sometimes we'll get remixers. Other times, I'll do something that's not really a remix, but spawned an entirely other idea. These things called premonitions, where I take an element of the song, say a riff that was in the verse, so like the song Enemy, that's on Chapter 2, The Devil Chapter 2, there's a riff that goes in the verse that, because my dumb mouth is making all sorts of noise and I'm singing and mucking up the whole thing, over the verses, you never really hear this riff in full. And as I was listening back to the instrumental, I kept thinking, man, if that riff were played louder, that would be just as cool as like a payoff or like a chorus riff. Oh, I'll just do another version where it is that. So the premonitions are kind of like you're getting this vision of the song from beyond, sort of thing, a little Lovecraft deal. So the premonition of Enemy is only that riff in all these different mutated forms, takes on a different life of its own, but you can tell how it still connects in with the original song. So the EPs that come out that have that, it's all about just providing a constant stream of content all the way up until the release of the album. And sometimes it's not even the chapters. I just released a single called Not Over Till We Say So that features Emma Anzai, the bassist from Sick Puppies. She did some bass and she did some backing vocals for me, and the song turned out awesome. It's my favorite song on the record so far. But that's one where, even though we made the rules of, Fixed made the rules of like, oh yeah, we're going to do things in like this chapter format and then release a full album, that was one where, even though we made the rules, we eschewed it for that and just said, oh, we can do what we want. So we're gonna release just a single and put it out there. So I like the fact that, people following on Spotify or people following on Twitter or Facebook always get a constant stream of like, oh hey, there's a new song. Oh hey, there's a new song here. And it's the best of both worlds, because there's those people who are like, oh well, that's not for me. I like the old school way. I like waiting for an album and digesting it as an album. Well, cool. You don't have to listen to any of this. Don't click the button that says play. It's a real easy, it's an easy fix. But the people who do want to hear stuff as soon as it's done get to do so. The people who want to save the experience can also do so.
For the people that might not have heard any of your music up until this point, that say they get interested with the interview and they go looking for that song with the Sick Puppies bassist,
Sure.
Describe how you see your own sound.
Well, if they did want to get an idea for the way the rest of this record is going to come about, that song, Not Over Till We Say So, is probably the best representation of Blue Stahli right now, because that particular song goes from thrash metal to glitch hop, all with like funky live bass stuff, to like straight up pop in the chorus with M83 style chords and stuff like that, and all of these disparate genres coming together in a blender and somehow being cohesive and making sense. That's Blue Stahli is a multi-genre project. Like there's some things where it's like straight up just heavy rock stuff. There's some things where it's straight up electronic, and there's some things where all of that commingles together. And that's my favorite thing, is making an album or even a song itself sound like you're spinning the dial of a radio, or probably the best thing, and one of the big inspirations for it was I always loved when you would get like an event soundtrack for a movie. You know, like when you would get like the soundtrack to The Crow or Virtuosity or Hackers or something like that. And on one album you would have hip hop and techno and metal and rock and pop and all this stuff, and I would listen to it and think, well, why does this have to be a soundtrack with like 12 different artists? Why can't this be one band who does all this different stuff? That's what I want to hear. I want to hear one band that sounds like, you know, the Matrix soundtrack as a whole. So that's really what I set out to do with Blue Stahli. So if you like that stuff and you like that sort of variety, then I am your mofo.
Okay. To kind of ask a question that I try to ask all the people I talk to, you've been around the music scene for quite a while, one way or the other, either the recording, the live playing, the writing the songs and whatnot. Every artist I've talked to so far, for the most part, has had that one moment that when it gets brought up, that when you're sitting around after a show or you're just talking about all the weird things that you've seen, there's one moment that could be brought up and you still laugh even if it was 20 years ago. What is that one Spinal Tap-esque moment that I can already see the smile on your lips, you're already reliving it in your head? What is that one moment?
As much as I would like to try and scramble for another one for variety's sake, it has to be the one that Clay has to have already told you. When I was the other member of the two-man Cell Dweller live show, we had the best Spinal Tap thing. We knew it was like instantly after it happened. We both cataloged it as this is our Spinal Tap moment. And there were many, but this was the Spinal Tap moment. And that's the fact that since this was an electronic rock show and we were presenting this more as a performance and electronic based thing. So it was just the two of us, not a live band with, you know, like, oh yeah, we got a bassist and a drummer and like 6 other guys standing around. No, it was just the two of us jumping around between a bunch of stuff and a lot of like electronic backing stuff, so mixing like DJ culture with rock and roll culture, you know, and us jumping around with guitars. And because we are control freaks, we had everything submixed on stage for us to control. So all the house had to worry about was they mic'd up the drums, and they had just the left and right of absolutely everything of us. So they had our keyboards, they had the sound effects, they had the vocals, they had the guitars, they had everything, and the drums. Those are the only things they could control. So if something messed up with one of those, it would be very, very obvious. So we begin the show, and of course there's a bunch of video screens and unique like timed video content to the actual music. So everything purely for dramatic effect and to be this great multimedia experience when everything works, which it did not. And the volume was down on our main mixer, so the house was getting 0 signal whatsoever, but we didn't know that because we play with in-ears, so we hear the mix perfectly. We never have to worry about, you know, feedback or anything like that. We hear everything exactly as it should be, so we would never know if there's a problem in the house. And oh my, yes, there was a problem in the house. We didn't know. So the way the show begins is that I walk out on stage first, and people start clapping because they go, "Oh, holy crap! It's that weird guy. Looks like Molly Ringwald. I like that guy." So I wave, and they start clapping, and I hit the button on my that's been mapped to my keyboard to trigger both the video and the audio for the show. Which, if they were to have heard the audio, which they could not because our volume was completely down, they would have heard this very dramatic film score-esque introduction and choirs and, you know, like the opening of a Marvel movie sort of thing. And then Clay walks out, and then they clap as well. So it's still completely dead silent in there. We're hearing it perfectly in our in-ears, and we're like, this show's gonna go so good. You guys have no idea what's about to hit you. And Clay comes and gets behind the drum kit, and to us the track kicks in, so he starts doing this tribal drum thing, a couple little fills, and like looks out over the crowd, does this thing with the sticks, and then it transitions to a new part where it's both of us on keyboards just jamming out and rocking out this this full on like really energetic electronic thing. And there's those shows where you can feel the energy right there, and you can tell like, oh yeah, this is gonna be like the energy's here tonight, and it's a good crowd. This is gonna be awesome. Well, we felt that, so we're both, you rock, like, you know, yelling stuff back and forth because like the audience can't even hear us. Our mics aren't on right now because we haven't triggered that part of the show, and there was no sound. So what the audience actually saw was dead silence and me walking out, pushing a button, standing there, and Clay walking out, coming behind the drum set and going do 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 do, and then both of us silently walk up to the keyboards and start hitting keyboards with no sound coming out, no sound anywhere, and the crowd probably just going, what is going on? What is going on right now? And luckily they figured it out just as the second song was playing, which thank God, because that's a very guitar heavy song. So as I'm putting on my guitar, and I didn't know, I had no idea any of this happened because I was hearing the mix perfectly in the in-ears. They figured it out, brought the sound up as I start playing the guitar part for the second song, and after the show we were so completely mortified, realizing, oh my God, now we have to go out and face all these people and shake hands and say, yep, we are giant idiots, sorry about that. And luckily every single person that we talked to said, oh my God, that was hilarious how you guys came out and did that little comedy thing before you kicked in the actual show. I'm like, oh my God, thank God we've cultivated the there's some bands where they're they carefully cultivate this image of like, oh my God, I'm this dark and mysterious artist, and but if something like that happened to an artist like that, it would destroy everything immediately. You know, like if that artist walked up on stage and fell on their ass, it would be like, oh, well, now the mystique is kind of ruined. But if I walked on stage and fell on my ass, it would be like, oh, come on, this guy, he's great. So thank God I'm just my dorky self for all of this.